Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the very first episode of Terror Tuesdays. Today we have quite the collection of spooky and scary tales, sure to give you bumps in the night. So, if you dare stick around any further, please enjoy these 3 spooky tales meant to keep you up all night long. So there I was, getting my buzz on with the boys on the Kitsum Kalem Res. It was late, going on 2 a.m., and we were all standing around the fire in Eric's backyard. It was a crisp autumn night, the kind that makes you want to warm up with a big bottle of Jack Daniels. Eric's trailer backed up to the woods, and he could hear the wind whistling through the pine trees. "Hey George, quit hogging the bottle," said Eric to me, but I wasn't. I'd only taken my 3rd swallow in a row. I quickly handed the bottle to him, not wanting to start a fight. Then Pete said, "Don't worry, there's Pabst Blue Ribbons in the cooler still. Ease up, homie." I cracked one and took a long swig. Steve poked at the fire with a stick and groaned. "Where's all the chicks, Eric? You said there would be chicks down to party." Eric shuffled his feet and looked deep into the fire. "You must have been mistaken. I said there'd be plenty of hicks, and here you guys are," he joked. Pete and I laughed and took another swig off the bottle. Me, Pete, and Eric and Steve had known each other for years. Drinking around the fire was a typical weekend for us. We'd been doing this for years. The fire was getting low, so Steve poured more gasoline on it to get it going again. It whooshed up real big like and crackled ferociously. "Same shit, different day," exclaimed Steve. "Well, you got any better ideas?" I asked. Steve grinned widely. "Yeah, let's switch it up. Let's go for a walk in the woods and see what we can find." Eric looked at me and then at Pete. "Fuck it. Not like there's any action here anyway." I looked towards the woods. They were dark. Nothing but shadows and the whistling wind. "I don't know, guys. I'm pretty fucked up. Wouldn't want to trip and sprain an ankle," I said. Pete laughed and took another swig of the bottle. "What are you, a little sissy? Come on, it'll be fun." By this time, it was around 2:30 in the morning, and the 4 of us went wandering deep into the pines. We walked in the pitch-black darkness, stumbling over fallen trees and beer cans for what felt like a real long time. Looking back, we couldn't even see the fire we had left behind anymore. All was pure darkness in these ancient woods. "I can't see shit out here," said Steve. "Did anyone think to bring a flashlight?" asked Eric. "Just this crappy light from my phone," I replied. I turned it on. It didn't offer much in the way of illumination, but I guess it was better than nothing. "What if we run into a bear?" Pete said. "A bear? Why would we run into a bear, Pete?" replied Steve. "This is bear country, idiot," I said. My phone light flashed around the woods, but we couldn't hardly see anything. Then we heard it, the soft sound of something moving in the distance. It sounded big, real big. We could hear branches snapping and twigs cracking under its steps. "The fuck is that?" asked Eric. "What am I, a park ranger? How the fuck should I know?" replied Steve. "Everybody shut up and listen. It could be a bear," I said, and polished off my beer and tossed the can over my shoulder. Other than this thing crashing through the woods in the distance, there was no sound. Everything had gone quiet, even the wind. "I don't like this. I don't like this at all, you guys," said Steve. "Yeah, maybe we should go back to Eric's," replied Pete. Then we heard the most gut-wrenching howl from deep in the forest. It was unlike anything we'd ever heard before. "Holy shit, fuck this!" yelled Eric, and he turned around, running back towards his trailer. "No, don't run. Predators will chase you if you run," I said, but it was too late. Eric was already sprinting through the trees away from the rest of us. Steve and Pete looked at me for guidance. That's when my phone's light died. It sounded like whatever was in the woods with us was getting closer and closer. "Okay, boys, time to nut up or shut up," I said quietly. "Let's get out of here, form a line, and head back to Eric's." Like stealth ninjas, we scurried through the forest, as quiet as we could. All the while, the thing in the tree sounded like it was gaining on us. "I don't like this," said Steve from the rear. "Just shut up and keep walking," I replied from the front. My heart raced. My blood froze in my veins, but I knew we just had to make it to the fire and everything would be okay. I stumbled over a log and picked myself up, but then we heard another howl, but this time it sounded like it was ahead of us. We kept moving. Finally, we arrived back at Eric's yard, but something was wrong. The fire was out, and there was no lights on in Eric's trailer. "Yo, Eric, where the fuck are you, buds?" yelled Steve. I moved closer to the fire and tripped over something. I looked down to see what it was. My hands were covered in a hot, sticky liquid. I reached over and picked up what I thought was a log. I almost puked. It wasn't a log. It was a severed arm. I dropped it on the ground. My eyes adjusted to the darkness. I could see other parts of a human body scattered around the fire pit, legs torn from the body, blood everywhere. Pete and Steve's faces went white from shock. "What the fuck is this?" yelled Steve, and then without warning, a howl and something large and dark crashed into him. He had no time to react. The beast tore into Steve's body, ripping his limbs from his torso. He screamed in agony. Pete ran towards Eric's trailer. I sat frozen in fear as we saw the monster eat Steve's face off. It looked like a giant wolf, but it had a strong and powerful upper body like a bodybuilder. It gnashed its teeth and looked in my direction. Its eyes were malevolent yellow, shining bright in the darkness. Slowly, it stood up on just two legs. It must have been at least 7 feet tall and 400 pounds. I knew this was it. What was supposed to be just another night of drinking with my best buddies was about to end with me being eaten alive. I closed my eyes. Kablam! A shotgun blast rang out from Eric's trailer door. The beast howled in rage and pain. One eye was now missing. It howled again and ran back deep into the woods. I looked up to see Pete holding Eric's old shotgun and reaching down to help me up. By now, the first light of dawn was cresting the mountains. There was parts of Eric strewn everywhere, and Steve's face was ripped clean off. I don't know what that thing was, but it killed 2 of my best buds. An hour later, the cops came and questioned me and Pete about what happened. We told them everything, like I'm telling you now, but they didn't believe us. They said it was a rabid bear that had done this, but both Pete and I knew the beast that had slaughtered our friends was no bear, but a creature out of the very depths of hell itself. So let me leave you with this warning. If you were ever drinking at the Res and think it's a good idea to go explore the woods late at night, just don't. Terrible things lurk out there, and they will kill you. Once again, I had another great time. As Bertha pulled her panties up, I lit a cigarette and flipped her $20 for a job well done. Every time I pull into this shithole truck stop, she's the lot lizard that takes care of my needs. "So when you coming back through again, Hank?" Bertha asked me. "Don't know, sweetheart. I got a lot of trucking to do and a lot of loads to haul back to California." "Why? You missed me already?" I replied. "Well, you're always just so good to me and don't rough me up like some of the others is all," she exclaimed. I laughed deep and loud from my gut. "Now don't you go thinking old Hank here's a softy," I said. Bertha smiled and pecked me on the cheek, then crawled out of my rig back into the Mojave night like the lizard that she was, quick to run over to the next rig and wait in customer. I grinned widely and zipped up my fly. The life of a long-haul trucker in the desert might not be for some people, be a glamorous life, but it was all I'd ever known. For over 18 years now, I've been a long-haul trucker on these dusty, lonely roads. It's a quiet life, just me and my rig and the radio for company, but this is how I liked it. I looked at my watch. It was getting late and time for me to be getting my mosey on. Places to be, loads to drop off, and all that. I fired up the engine and turned back onto the highway, leaving Bertha and the truck stop behind in the distance. I cranked up the radio and was greeted by the soft, sweet sounds of old Merle Haggard singing about whiskey and women. It suited me just fine. As the miles in the cactus flew by, I got to thinking about life. Funny thing, that thing we call life has a way of creeping up on you, just like the midnight does in the Mojave Desert. I took a swig from my flask and coughed at the burning taste of bourbon as it burned down my throat. That's the good stuff. Now don't get me wrong, I don't condone drinking and driving, but once in a while, a little nip off the bottle does a man good. It had been hours now into the void of pitch blackness that I had driven, hours upon hours of just me and the old highway and desert. Then I felt it, the twitch of my bladder. Looks like it was time to find me a rest stop and drain the main vein. I saw a sign on the right that said rest stop 10 clicks ahead and knew a small prayer had been answered. As I pulled my rig into this desolate rest stop, I noticed a concrete bunker, which I assumed was the pisser, some scruffy shrubs, and one car parked in the lot with its lights off. I parked and hopped down from my truck and made my way towards the restrooms. One lonely light post flickered on and off in the darkness. From behind the rest stop, I could hear something scurrying back and forth, probably a coyote. This is the desert after all. I opened the door and walked in. The lights overhead buzzed with a warble to them. From what I could see, I had the place all to myself. 2 pissers in one stall with the door closed. I saddled up to the urinal and did my business. As I stood there, I thought I heard a soft moaning noise come from the bathroom stall. I paid it no mind. Obviously the owner of that car out front was taking a shit. But the moaning grew louder, and what sounded like wet coughing began. Nervously, I finished my piss and zipped up, moving towards the sink to wash my hands when I heard it. A voice. A man's voice coming from the stall. Barely a whisper. "Help me." The voice echoed off the walls. What the fuck, I thought. "Please help me." The voice repeated. Something ain't right, and my gut started to twirl. Cautiously, I looked towards the stall door. Was that blood on the door? A long crimson streak of it dripped down to the tiles of the floor? This situation had my skin crawling off my flesh, but Mama didn't raise no sissy, so I crept towards the door. "Hey, is somebody in there?" I called out. Nothing but silence. The lights above flickered. I said, "Someone in there." The voice, now more of a gurgle, rang out, "Help me." I knuckled up to the door and opened it slowly. I wish I hadn't. Sitting slumped back on the shitter was the most gruesome sight I had ever seen. A man, or what was left of him, looked at me in a state of agony. His skin had been completely removed, nothing but sinew and flesh bleeding out. The horror was too much to take in. I took a step back. What kind of psycho was out here skinning people alive in the desert? I turned to run for the exit. I knew that sounds cowardly, but shit, I'm not a cop or a soldier, just a trucker. And hell, from what I saw, there wasn't much to be done for that fella now. Yes, sir, self-preservation was the order of the night. I slammed through the restroom door into the cold, dark night. As I did, I heard a screeching howl come from the car parked to my left and a thumping noise. I looked over to see something straight out of hell crawling up on the car roof. It looked like a mangled, 6-foot-tall coyote wearing a bloody mess of human skin draped over itself. The creature snarled at me. I ran as fast as Usain Bolt in my cowboy boots towards my rig. I could hear the demon climbing over the car towards me. Then it spoke. "Where you going, friend? Why you look like you have such nice leathery skin?" I nearly pissed myself a second time as I loaded up into my truck, throwing it into gear and peeling out of there like the devil himself had come to collect me. Thump! Thump! What the fuck was that? Sounded like something was trying to crawl up the passenger side of my rig. I floored it back onto the highway as fast as possible. Then the glass of my passenger window shattered and a long, gnarled hand tried to reach in. I slapped at it with my right hand, but the damn thing sliced me deep across the forearm, and I heard that evil voice again say, "Such delicious skin should be mine," it proclaimed as I swerved my rig back and forth on the highway. The arm flailed and disappeared back to the window. My hands gripped the wheel, and I gunned it down the dark, desolate stretch of road like a bat out of hell until the sun came over the horizon. I didn't stop driving. I just kept on going till noon, till I saw civilization again. I don't know what that thing is I ran into the Mojave Desert, but I tell you this, I will never stop to hang a piss again, no matter what. I'll get myself a fucking piss jug before that happens. This is my story, and I swear every word of it is true. Stay away from rest stops, and if you ever see what looks like a 6-foot-tall coyote wearing human skin, best to pray to whatever God you believe in and run for your life. If there's one thing I hate more than anything, it's aliens. With their big stupid eyes and oversized heads and twiggy thin bodies and blank looks on their dumb faces. I hate them. I hate them more than anything. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Chuck, and I'm a longtime fan of listening to the Terror Tuesdays podcast and thought I should share with you my story. Every word of it is true. I live in Montana, big mountain country, the most beautiful place on earth if you ask me. Well, this all happened about a week or so back. There I was, late one evening, sitting with my best bud Spot. Spot's a Jack Russell Terrier. So anyways, there we were, sitting on the back porch, Spot gnawing on a bone, and me blazing on a nice fat joint, just relax and listen to some Lynyrd Skynyrd on the radio. Perfect night for stargazing, I thought. Not a cloud in the sky, just me, Spot, and the mountains and the mesmerizing stars above. As we sat there enjoying the view, Spot, his bone, I suddenly saw something peculiar in the night sky. Lights. Weird looking lights. Kinda hard to describe, but I'll do my best. They were flashing orange, blue, and green, changing rapidly from one color to the next, really fast. As I watched the lights began to zip around, unlike anything I'd ever seen before, zig and zagging to and fro, I thought to myself, shit, is this the weed laced with LSD or something? No way I'm seeing this for real. But real it was, because suddenly the lights stopped flipping and flopping around and stopped stationary above my porch. What in the world is going on, I thought to myself. Then Spot started to bark, as ferocious as I've ever heard him before. I figured this was the perfect time for us to make our exit stage right, or in this case, to head back into my home, which we did pronto. Now you might be thinking that's the end of it. I just saw some strange lights in the sky, but you'd be wrong. The very next night, old Spot and me were back at it again, relaxing on the patio. And sure as shit, the lights returned. Only this time, instead of just one bright flashing light, there were 3 of them. I felt a strange hum in the air and knew nothing good could come from this encounter, and of an otherworldly nature. They zipped around in what felt like a hostile way, darting to the left, then zagging to the right, then flipping straight up into the sky, all the while flashing blue, orange, and green. Spot began to growl as he looked up at them. I went inside and rushed back out with a pair of binoculars in an attempt to get a better look at these things. As I zoomed in, I couldn't make nothing out, though. They were just really bright spheres of light zipping around in the inky darkness of the Montana night. Not sure what I should do, I grabbed Spot by the collar and dragged him back into the house, for fear that something truly terrible may happen if we sat there any longer. The third night was when all hell broke loose. That night we didn't go out on the back porch, as was our custom, but instead I locked every door and window and went to bed early around 9 p.m. I slept fitfully for what felt like only a few hours, until suddenly I awoke, unable to move in my bed. I'd heard of this phenomenon before. It's called sleep paralysis, but never had it happen to me before. I struggled in vain to move, but nothing doing. Then from the corner of my eye, I could see orange and blue and green lights flashing right outside my bedroom window. This wasn't good. This wasn't good at all. From the corner of my shadowy room, something moved towards me. I strained to see, and my God, it was just like all the scary movies and stories you heard about came to life right before my very eyes. This ugly, gray-skinned creature with large bulbous black eyes inched closer towards me. I was frozen in terror. The thing was roughly 4 feet tall and extended a hand towards me as if to calm me down. No such luck. I was petrified with fear. Then I felt a humming noise at the base of my skull, and it was if the creature was telepathically communicating with me, but no words, but no, not words, but images. It was showing me gruesome scenes of it probing my body with strange instruments in a brightly lit room. My interpretation was that it wanted to use me as a human experiment subject. I tried to scream. Nothing came out. Instead, I blacked out. I woke in wretched pain, as if my entire body had been pierced with 1,000 needles and a jackhammer had been taken to my rectum. I was in a brightly lit room, lying on a silvery metal bed. Where exactly was I? What had that bastard done to me? I began to scream ferociously like I'd never screamed before. Then from the sides of the bed, 3 ugly gray aliens materialized right before me as if my screaming had summoned them to me. Their cold, unfeeling black eyes stared into mine, and I sensed that the torture had just begun. I was angry. Hell, I was more than angry. These things had violated me in ways I knew I'd never forget. I wanted revenge. I wanted them to pay. I wanted them to know my fear. One of the bastards lifted his hand, and his 3-finger grasp was what looked like some kind of scalpel. That's when the berserker rage overcame me, as if Thor himself had possessed my body. My arm reached up and grabbed the alien's elbow, twisting it mercilessly. I rose from the bed and kicked another one in the guts. It toppled over. What could only pass as shock on the third one's ugly face tried to run, but I punched that one right in its big gelatinous eyeball. My fist went right through it as it exploded like a jelly donut. In my mind's eye, I could hear the wretched monster scream in agony. Good, I thought. That's what you get. Then from behind me emerged a reptilian creature, at least 8 feet tall, carrying what looked like some kind of baton that crackled with electricity. Oh shit, I thought. Not good. It lunged at me with lightning speed, smashing the baton into my chest. I crumpled to the floor and blacked out. I awoke the next morning to find myself naked in my bed, covered in my own blood and black ichor, knowing that what had happened to me was no dream at all. This is all true, Terror Tuesdays, a true frightening encounter with what I can only describe as beings from another world. I'll keep you updated if anything more happens or if I see those damn strange lights ever again. Thank you for reading my story, and God bless. So there you have it, folks. Another spooky tale, or 3 to hold you over till next Tuesday. As always, we hope you enjoyed yourself and were spooked thoroughly. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss any of our spooky content. Till next time, ta-ta.